Hello, everybody. We have a star among us here, and you've probably heard of Bonnie Logan. If you haven't, you will by the time we finish. Bonnie is a story writer. She's a storyteller, but she puts it to music with all the famous people that work with her. And so welcome to you, Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Anita. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, and you're just so charming all the time. And this, the new wonderful musical called Time Stops, which is going to be heard, of course, or seen at the Kravis Center, July the 15th to the 17th. It's going to be smashing. You must be so thrilled with this. You know, a lot of people write stories, but they never get to produce music.
I know. I know. It's almost hard to describe. I want to say indescribable, but I'm a writer, so it has to be describable. It is just the most wonderful feeling to have spent such a long period of time. It really was, it's 2.5 years now of writing it through COVID and just putting all of the characters in my brain, and then eventually they just become part of your brain, and helping them all to come alive and to learn so much more about the process of writing and becoming hopefully better and better with the help of extremely talented people, in the writing process. And now seeing rehearsals here and watching it come alive, there are so many pinch me moments that I just feel so blessed to be able to have this opportunity in my life.
So Bonnie, the name is quite interesting. Yes. I don't know of anything else that says Time Stops. So tell me about the name.
Well, I think we've all had moments like this. And what I like to do is write about the relatable. I'm fascinated by the human condition and what all of us go through, not just some of us, but what all of us feel on this journey that we take called life. And we, in that journey, have moments that I always call time stops. They can either be wonderful things or things that are not so wonderful, but it's a moment when you stop what you're doing and the adrenaline begins to rush and you have a moment of realization about your life. And I think we all have so many of those moments, but we can't really describe it. Well, I wrote a story about many of those moments, and that's how it got its title, because it's about time stop moments for some absolutely wonderful people that my cast has brought to life. So that's how it got.
Explanation. Thank you. Yes, because as you were saying that, I was thinking about time stopping, and a lot of that happens when I'm sleeping, and I wake up, and all of a sudden something happens. Right?
Stop moment for sure. Yeah, and I've had so many of them, and I love to write about what's relatable. I know that in my life of seeing shows, the ones that I came out of feeling the best about, feeling so complete about, were the ones that touched me, that touched my heartstrings. Something I could relate to and say, yes, I know what they're talking about. Yes, that happened to me, or it happened to my friend, or it could happen to me, both with excitement and some scary moments too. And we all have those. And I just, the shows that I go to that focus on that are the ones where the characters are so with you that you're pulling for them and you recognize them in everything you do. And Time Stops has characters that everyone's going to recognize.
Okay, well, let me introduce you again. Of course, I'm Anita Finley, and I love doing these interviews. But Bonnie Logan she lives in Boca Raton, but she's famous across the country now because of what she did. She did with Boca Bound, but let's just tell everybody that you are the story writer, but you have to have someone who's perfect with the music,
yes,
and the direction and all. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who's with you?
Okay, so nothing is truer than the words, it takes a village. Nobody takes on something like this by themselves. An effort like this, bringing it to the stage, takes a lot of wonderful people. And I just want to start with the person who has taught me everything that I know about writing that I have learned, and that's Chad Larrabee. He's both my mentor and my director. And he's incredible at both. He is a phenomenal educator, and every step of the way, he has commented on everything that I've done, more than comment. He had me rewrite and rewrite and rewrite until I get to a point where he'll say, yes, that's it. You got it. Let's go, let's go on. And so for me, having him just means everything, because that's how I learned to write for the theater. Then once that is in a place where you have, let's say in this, I'll fast forward a little, both acts done. Then I go to Michael Moritz Jr., that I'm very, very happy to call a great professional and friend, a really good friend. And he is the production guy and the music guy. And they'll say, Michael, I think I'm ready for someone to collaborate with me on the music. And then every person that has been with me, he has found for me, but he said, you know what, I'm going to find the perfect person to write your music. And that's where Brett Bowles came in. And Brett Bowles is very well known in the world of Broadway, and just overall, he's written several shows. And the moment comes where Brett gets the script. And the story that I love is Michael sent it to Brett at 6 o'clock at night. And by 9 o'clock, he called Michael and said, yes, I want to do it. So Brett just finished writing, well, a couple of weeks ago, 26 of the most beautiful songs for time stops you could ever imagine. We are on the same wavelength. He is a joy. When we work together, it's like one brain. So that has been glorious. And then after we have that, then Michael takes over again, and Chad gets everything to a place where he's comfortable. The script is tight, the music's perfect. And then it goes into Michael's hands. Of course, then we get the cast, and then we audition the cast, which we had to do on Zoom. And by this time, everybody knows as much about the characters as I do. And we don't even have to say anything. We just look at each other and we know who's right, who isn't right. And it's just the most beautiful thing to bring something like this together. And then there are a multitude of other people that are involved that you don't see every day. And it's just, once you get to this point, then it's kind of like autopilot for Michael finding the theater, and the Kravis was delighted to have it. They wanted it, they loved it, and we love them. They are an absolute joy to work with. And now I'm spending most of my time doing my PR, although I never miss a rehearsal. And Chad he's up and he's doing all of the rehearsals. We had 2 weeks in New York, and now we have 2 weeks at the Kravis, although we're down to 1 week tomorrow, 1 week from opening. And I'll tell you, Anita, coming out of Boca Bound, I loved the process of writing a musical so much that I knew whatever I wrote, I wanted to help the audience understand some of what's involved in writing a musical. So really, I wrote a musical within a musical, which, had I known how hard it would have been, I don't know if I would have thought about it, but that's how it ended up. And so while you're learning about these incredible characters, you're also learning about the process of writing a musical. So I'm very proud of all the people that have helped me get there. And of course, you have to have a wonderfully supportive husband or a partner in your life to put up with all of this.
Of course.
Because let me tell you, we're talking about long days and long nights and getting up at 3 a.m. and going over to the computer and writing for 3 hours. So it's just a joy.
And it's a dream come true for you, and I know that.
It is.
I'd like to ask you, though, there are many people who write books and they never can turn them into musicals. What makes the difference?
The difference is that you have to understand when dialogue stops, only when that is, and when music is the medium that needs to take you the rest of the way. you cannot be, and this is the industry word, precious about what you're doing. Being precious in the world of theater means you're not a best person, best idea in the room person, that you won't give up your words because they're yours and you don't want them changed and you know better than everyone. If this is your mantra, you will not be successful, because you have to realize that everyone around you is trying to do the best thing for your show. And when you write a book, you know, it's so much dialogue, and certainly it can be turned into musicals. You have to be willing to give up a lot of what you've written to have it transferred into the song. And I've never, thank goodness, knock on wood, ever had a problem with that. Brett and I work out everything. I've changed tons of dialogue, rewritten so many scenes. Brett has done the same thing with his songs. The two of us are not afraid to talk to each other about anything and everything. And often people who write don't understand that, or feel they don't want to do that, that they want the words to carry them everywhere. And for me, I'll gladly give up pages of dialogue if the song doesn't. I want to always do what's best for the show. And while I don't know for sure that that's the answer, I would imagine that's the answer.
So time stops.
Anita.
Right. Well, it's a great answer. I mean, I wasn't aware of that because I interview a lot of authors, but time stops is coming. And now that you know, Bonnie, because it's rare that we get to talk to someone who actually writes the story in such a, an easy way here. You're certainly a conversationalist. I love that. Time stops. It's going to be July the 15th to the 17th at the Kravis Center. And I want you to buy tickets now because probably be sold out. So you only have 15th, 16th, and 17th. But I'd like to then also go into the characters. Now,
Okay.
The characters, of course, now they have to sing. So they're not, so like in a book, you learn about them, but tell us about your characters.
Okay, there are 6 main characters and we have 2 ensemble, but everybody's doing everything. Okay, so the story is about, there are many things it's about. Overall, it's about how we get through the journey of life and what do we do as people, as humans, when life throws us a curveball. We have a couple of choices. We can either say, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, I can't face this, I can't go on. And of course, that affects everybody around you, including yourself and your own ability to find happiness in this world. Or you can choose to say, okay, the glass is half full, I have people who love me, I have other things in my life, I'm not going to give up on life, I'm going to find a way forward. Now, it sounds simplistic when you think about it, but when people are faced with a crossroads in their life, often they make decisions that aren't the best ones, or they make no decision and they just stay where they are, kind of paralyzed. Time stops is about how you move forward when life throws you a curveball. So in the case of our characters, one of the couples, Emma and Charlie Portman, lost their only child when she was 16 years old. And this happened a few years prior to where you find yourself when you come to the show. Charlie, who owns a restaurant, was able to move on to the extent that anybody can move on when they're faced with the most heartbreaking of things that can happen in your life. Charlie has tried hard to move on and keep himself going. Emma, unfortunately, has not been able to move on. She was a famous playwright in her life before she lost her daughter. So she's given up on everything. She gave up on writing, she gave up on friends, and most of all, she gave up on having any kind of a real relationship with a husband who she adored. Was she didn't want to give herself any happiness. She didn't want, because of guilt, to feel any joy, because in her heart, there's a very big hole. So their story is about what Emma decides to do in her mind through a set of circumstances to see if she can work out her grief. And she makes a decision to write a musical about her daughter and give her the life she never had.
That's great.
Except nobody knows this, but Emma and Charlie is not aware. They have not talked about the daughter that they lost in the 3 years that they've lost her. So they've never had a hold each other, cry together. God, we've got to get through this somehow, unspeakable kind of loss. She has moved this way and Charlie is trying to move towards her to help her, but he can't break through. So through these circumstances, she makes a decision. Now, the process is about her writing this musical where she's going to change her daughter's outcome. But in the process of doing that, she has 2 other people come into her life, another couple, Ben and Stephen, and we're going to examine through them as they interact with Emma and Charlie. One of them wants a baby, and the other person, Stephen, wants to write music, and he feels that a baby is not something that will help him in his life. So Ben enlists Stephen to help write this musical because he thinks Stephen will be happier, and maybe Emma will go along with it because they're all friends. And she does go along with it. But on this journey, Ben and Stephen discover something about their own relationship and their own happiness that is getting in the way of being able to move forward themselves. So what we're going to look at with that couple is how many people stay in relationships with others that they know they're not going to get their needs met. They know they're never going to be really happy, but they stay there because they don't know how to leave. And it's especially difficult when they both love each other so much. But sometimes love, romantic love, isn't enough, that you have to be able to fulfill yourself in other ways too. So we're going to enter in this show a wonderful world of those 2 looking at that issue and watching how it impacts Emma and Charlie. And then we have another wonderful couple. One of them owns a theater. The other is a director, and they had been together for years, but they broke up because of a decision that the theater owner had made, and she moved away, but now she's moved back. And we're going to look at a relationship now come together that both of them thought was over. So,
Bonnie, I'm sorry, as you're talking, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what kind of music am I listening to? They're like violins. I can hear all sorts of beautiful things. So that's amazing.
I'm telling you, Anita, bring Kleenex, not because of
Right.
anything down, but because you're going to be so overwhelmed with joy from Brett's music.
Right.
Friday in New York, I have to tell you this, my last day in New York, before we all came down here, I was watching a scene and I wrote these scenes and, seeing them being acted, I was in tears. I was inconsolable. I was sitting in that rehearsal room, trying to stop myself, but I just, we're all on the edge here of feeling everything. And, I was in tears yesterday from joy. And the music that Brett brought to this, and there are moments, this is not a down show. This is a very up healing show.
Right.
And when you hear Brett's music, you're not going to walk out of there not remembering. You're going to want to hear the cast album immediately, which is happening Sunday evening. We're going to have a cast album of the show, which is a wonderful thing. The music is just, special is just not the right word for what Brett wrote. It just isn't.
Well, I'm overwhelmed, and I know that your enthusiasm. If we bottled that, the world would be a better place. But
if you figure out how to do it, we'll both share the proceeds.
Right. Okay. And then what's happened, of course, in the world, there's such a lot of tragedy.
Whoa.
That this is a perfect show, but it's you. It's amazing how your enthusiasm, but your intelligence and your talent and all. It's a wonderful thing. So please remember Bonnie's name, Bonnie Logan, and remember time stops. You'll want to go right now after you see this interview. Yes, please call kravis.org, book yourself. This is a wonderful thing to take friends. It's a lovely thing, and I can't wait to see it also, but I will be there. And I just have to thank you, and I don't know how you sleep at night or how your husband, thank
Not
you
very
husband,
much.
for what you've done. But
Not very
you are
much.
so talented, Bonnie, and it is a wonderful thing to have you on this interview.
Oh,
And we
Anita,
wish
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. I'm gonna cry. I'm getting all verklempt here.
No, don't cry. But when you can create something like this, that's going to be remembered, I'm sure this show, Time Stops, the name is so good. People will not forget your name, especially now that you've explained it. That's right. Time does stop for so many people in different circumstances. And I just wish you so much luck,
Thank you.
Bonnie. Really,
Thank you.
you're
Anita, I
just
just want to say one more thing.
sure, of course.
I think I neglected to mention the people that are bringing these characters to life.
Okay.
This cast is so wonderful. They are such wonderful and talented people. I love them. I'm going to miss them. You know, when this is over, I just want everyone to know that they're going to see a cast of people that absolutely are living these roles.
That's okay. You'll write another one. We'll be waiting
Yeah.
for that one. Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, and I'm sure people, they must be thrilled too. So
They are.
you're unique to come on and to tell us really how the story goes. But I can see it in your life. You're so passionate and you're really very kind, and I can see where some difficult situations can be made whole. And so thank you. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Anita. I'll look forward to seeing you next
Oh,
week.
yes, I'll be there with my Kleenex. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll give you a big hug. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.